Right, guys, are we on?
Yes. It's been a long time.
Been a while.
It's been a little while, yeah.
Yeah. I guess my bad. Like I was like been away for a bit, you know.
It is Ed's fault. Definitely.
It is always Ed's fault. Yeah.
And I mean, yeah, we've changed the name of it, isn't it? It's not the Tight Men UK. It's Ed's podcast. Ed and Friends podcast. I think.
Yeah, Ed and Co. Yeah.
That's what we learned from that football chat we had a couple of weeks back.
I thought you were going to talk about football.
Okay. Yeah, we're not going to talk about football.
Ed and Friends.
Yeah, Ed and Friends.
Yeah, well, like Ed and Associates. Like, at this stage, anyway.
Oh, we've been relegated to associates now. Wow.
Well, yeah.
Right, what's
not
going
even
on,
friends
Mike?
anymore.
It's because we're not vegan. If we were vegan, we'd be Ed and Friends.
That's it.
Ha ha ha. A funny one. Ha ha.
I do want to get your thoughts on something though, guys. So, alright. So, like, it was about a few weeks ago that I grasped.
Before,
what?
should we like just say Tight Men?
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Oh, so we haven't actually changed our names, by the way. That was a joke. Yeah, I'm Nav.
Ed.
Shane.
Michael.
Cool. Jazz is away, but he's with us in spirit, I guess. Probably gonna be kicking himself when he hears what we're chatting about.
Yeah, he's gonna disagree with everything that we say, I think. Alright, so yeah, I do want to get your thoughts on something. So a few weeks ago, I grassed up one of my neighbours to the RSPCA.
Oh wow!
Well, yeah, I know. Well, it's just.
Is this so? Do you want
That's
us
a
to
killer
judge?
opening statement.
That's actually not the point I was getting at. But
do you want us to judge how we deal with grasses? Like snitches get.
Hang on, before we go on, does your friend listen to this podcast?
No, thank God, no. I was thinking about that as well, and he's a pretty big guy, so I was like, okay. So let's not talk about our addresses where we live and
It's not
stuff.
Big Tom, is it?
Yeah, sorry, Big Tom.
It was a covert grassing up.
No, I tell you why though, because what it is, he's
Where
got.
do you live in?
No, I'm not. Let's keep that quiet. So he's got like loads of dogs in his garage, and with the weather warming up and stuff, I thought the dogs might be struggling. So I was just like concerned. Anyway, it got me thinking about animal testing, and I've always had like a soft spot for animals. Like Mike's cats.
Yeah.
Brilliant. We got a good relationship there.
Yeah.
In a nice way, not in a weird way. But I've always been kind of like nonchalant about animal testing. I don't know why. When we talk about all these protesters and stuff like that, I don't know if I hear enough about is animal testing right or wrong.
Yeah.
I kind of want to keep it broad like that. So what's your thoughts, Shane?
Right, so for me, animal testing, I reckon it can be okay in the right circumstances. I mean, for me, testing cosmetic products on animals is not right because, it's cosmetic. It's something that's not really important in terms of humanity. But if we're talking about medicine and things that can potentially save people's lives, then surely we should be testing them on animals before we jump to the human testing phase. Just my opinion. But yeah, I think there's right and wrongs in terms of animal testing, and cosmetics is something I'm completely against.
Is that just because you're a guy though?
No, not at all. Not at all. I just just looking at animals. I mean,
you don't use makeup, do you, Shane?
No, but I wouldn't even be happy for them to test male products like shower gels and stuff on animals, because I think that's just wrong.
Yeah,
it's not something that's going to save someone's life. It's not something that's pivotal to humankind. But in terms of medicine, then I think it's okay. I think it has to be okay, because where else do we test it?
Yeah.
But surely we're in 2019. There must be other forms of testing available now.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
There must be,
because you said like we should be testing on animals. I think it's not so much we should be. It's just that at least when we got to the level where we had lab conditions, we were having the scientific method, we could test things out before we apply them to whatever. Like animals were the best. Like they're the best solution in order to like work out whether something was suitable or not. But as Mike said, 2019, maybe there's other, like, I don't know, maybe we could do like computer simulations. Like,
see, I kind of disagree.
It's probably too expensive, isn't it?
No, because for instance, with things like cancers, you have to grow the cancer on something living to be able to see if the medicines work.
Yeah.
And rats are perfect for that. I mean, you basically grow a cancer on a rat and then you see if the medicine works. You're not going to be able to do that anywhere else.
Why not use a cancer victim? A cancer patient.
Well, this is the problem. You could potentially kill them for testing.
No, but what I'm saying, all right, okay. So let's get someone who's on the way out anyway. He's got inoperable cancer, or he or she, and then volunteers for testing.
Yeah, but then you've got the argument that you're going to make the last few moments of their life quite cruel because you're testing products on them.
So there might not be a real test because they're going through something already. So it's not like a true test of if someone actually had it, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I suppose. But the way that I look at it, I mean, like, you know, animals, specifically dogs and cats and stuff like that, are seen as extensions of families. And I know that there's not a great deal of animal testing done on dogs and cats. I mean, there might be. I don't know.
Better not be.
Well, I don't think there is. I mean, like,
I think
it's
most
like
of
you
them
said,
are
rats and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, even, you know, I still think I'm of the opinion of, like, much like Nav's opinion on global warming, that, you know, we're in 2019. That Nav feels that something's just going to be invented and everything's going to be sweet. I feel like we are in a period now where surely there must be better options.
You would think so, but I mean, it comes down to you need a biological system that's functioning to be able to test it. I mean, it's very hard to simulate biological functions because you just don't know what's going to, you know, you can't. I don't see how else you're going to do it. You're going to need a biological specimen to be able to test medicine.
Aren't we in a time where we can clone humans?
Yeah, but then you've got the.
Can't we just clone a batch of humans?
But then you've got the ethical problem of whether it's right to clone human life.
So you know about the rats though. I always thought about this. Like, let's just say, I don't know, I lost an eye or something like that, and then I went to the doctor and he goes, yeah, don't worry, we've tested this on a rat. I'm like, ooh, I don't really want it. I want to test it on a human before I was like, well, you know, you put a rat's eye in my.
No, but I think the rats.
They've grown it off the back of a rat.
Yeah,
but no, but I don't think. I think basically the way that it works is you test it on rats before it goes to human testing. So, so basically you'll test it on a rat to make sure the rat's going to be okay. If the rat's okay, then you extend it to human testing. So then what you have is you have clinical trials. And then you're getting a patient who has that condition and they say, right, this has been tested on blah, blah, blah.
Got ya.
We're going to go through a clinical trial. We don't know if it works. If you go through a clinical trial, some of the times the medicine that you receive will be just placebo because they have to, but they don't tell you. So you don't know if you're getting the medicine or not.
Did you see that picture of that ear that was growing on the rat? Do you remember this? Yeah. And it was fully functioning and everything.
Yeah,
and
see, that I'm not against.
Yeah,
I'm not against like growing organs and
but
stuff.
Then what happens to the rat?
Yeah, exactly.
You just take it off. It's not growing.
But does the rat die?
I doubt it. If it's just an attachment.
And what about the rat with his other rat mates? I mean, they were like, "Look, mate, you got a giant hair on your back." And we're like, "That's a bit weird." Isn't it?
But then, I mean, it's one of those
Roland,
things.
can you hear me?
Yeah, exactly.
It's one of those things, especially when you talk about
banter.
things like rats. Like, I mean, it's okay for us to say we've got a rat problem and go and cull a load of rats. But why is it not okay for us to do animal testing on rats?
Well, and that's a good point, because I think you look at animals differently per species.
Yeah.
It's like Mike said with dogs and cats. You're like, well, on a rat, you're like,
you wouldn't want to test it on monkeys.
Monkeys,
either,
yeah.
but, you
But
know,
you know, I've just had a thought there. Didn't they test smoking on beagles?
I'm not sure.
What?
Wasn't that in the 80s, the 70s and 80s?
Oh yeah, that was a
Beagles.
different time. I think we've moved
Yeah.
on
But
from
beagles were used to test cigarette smoke.
Oh really?
I'm sure that's why they're called like smoking dogs, isn't they? They've got that thing. I'm sure. I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure.
I think we've probably moved on from doing tests on animals.
Oh yeah, getting a beagle to smoke 50 a day and see what happens.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think it can be okay in certain
Just
circumstances.
Googled that. It said, like, in one experiment, researchers cut holes in the throats of beagles and forced them to breathe
There you go.
concentrated cigarette smoke
Yeah.
for an entire year.
There you go. See.
But why would you have to do that? Couldn't you just put it in a box and blow smoke in it? Why would you have to cut a hole in?
Yeah.
But what was it? This was like the 70s or something, wasn't it? It was a long time ago.
It says, like, 50s basically.
Oh, 50s.
Oh,
yeah.
right,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
You can understand. I mean, medicine generally throughout history has been quite horrendous, and it's slowly got better. But,
You hear about during the war and World War II and all the experiments they did then. It's just one thing I do think though, like with stem cells, I don't know why that's sort of. It seems like the best thing.
I agree with you. I don't see why there's
I don't know what the controversy.
Yeah.
Because you hear about it and it's meant to be just fantastic. Like
Yeah.
it could cure anything. It seems like you could. And I don't get what the ethical dilemma is. With
I don't.
That. Yeah,
I don't.
I'll look into that. Maybe we could do a separate topic on that.
I think what it is with that is I think it's in terms of how you harvest the stem cells. So I think what they do is they basically grow an embryo.
Oh, I thought it was from.
That's
right.
This is why there's an ethical problem.
Yeah, because it's aborted fetuses, isn't it?
It's basically that's where you get the stem cells from.
Yeah.
So I think what they do in the lab is they grow an embryo up into a certain stage, way before it's developed a brain or anything like that, and then they harvest the stem cells, which is where there's an ethical problem. But to be quite honest, stuff like stem cell research, and I've got nothing against it. I mean, growing organs as well, I've got nothing against it. As long as the biological matter that you're growing doesn't have a nervous system, doesn't have a brain, and doesn't essentially have a consciousness, I don't see what the problem is.
Yeah.
It's like that's kind of like linking to the pro-life argument, and so
it is. But again, I mean, abortions. I mean, I wouldn't say abortions for everybody, but at the same time, if the fetus is at a stage where there's no nervous system and there's no brain, then I don't see, it's the same as eating an egg. It's like, you don't think to
I
yourself,
feel like I agree with that.
Yeah.
Although I've not really given it much thought, but the way you've just said it.
Yeah, there's no nervous system, there's no brain, there's no consciousness, so you're not really killing a life because it's not got to that stage.
And
yet.
ultimately, so what we're saying is, if a woman wants to have an abortion, yeah, absolutely fine, no problem, women's choice and all that sort of stuff, then instead of it actually being aborted and gotten rid of, it's then taken and used for stem cell. Is this what we're saying?
That's it. Yeah.
I think that's
That's what it
they
is.
harvest the stem cells.
It's not
from
such a
it,
bad idea, surely.
It was that South Park episode. Did you guys see this? When
No.
Cartman, it was mental, man. So basically, he really wanted loads of stem cells. So he'd go to the
Didn't he grow like a KFC?
and he literally put a stem cells next to the KFC so he could get his own KFC. Because that's what stem cells do. They clone whatever it's next to, and he just got a KFC out of it.
I remember that
that's not
episode
a bad
was good.
idea.
That is brilliant.
That episode
It
was
was
brilliant.
so good.
But those guys, I think those guys are genius. Just
I think,
It's because with South Park as well. I think it's because they always take current issues. And
Exactly.
and they make it into it's political satire, really.
Yeah.
I feel like that's not such a bad thing. I don't know.
It's basically the religious side of it, though. I think that's where
But
it
to be
comes
quite
to.
honest, I agree with you, because if you're aborting that anyway, it gets thrown away.
Oh no! I agree. Yeah.
It's going to get
So
thrown
that's
away.
what I mean. If you're taking, if you've got someone who wants to have an abortion anyway, rather make that into something good and useful, rather than just like you say, just throwing it away.
Which is what they do.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Ed, come on now.
what they also do, because I remember this from when my daughter was born. Is you sign a release form for them to take the placenta. 'Cause I think there's stem cells on the placenta as well, so they take that away as well. We signed it.
But see,
and
that's
just
not
said,
such a
go and
bad
take
thing
it.
either.
Yeah,
The placenta, I mean,
that's
because what
okay.
do people? Some people eat it, don't they?
Yeah, I was gonna say some
people
cultures they eat it, don't
Tom
they? Yeah.
Cruise, apparently. Right. Well, allegedly.
Yeah, but
Oh really? Is that a Scientology thing?
Yeah, but he's
Yeah.
I think it's meant to be really
He's
good
all
for you,
sorts of
actually.
mental, though, isn't he? Like
Yeah,
Tom
he's
Cruise. He's
crazy.
little. He's weird. He's, he's just,
Do you reckon he's gonna fight Justin Bieber? Have you heard
I
about
hope
that?
so.
Yeah,
I
that'd be
hope
funny.
so.
Yeah.
Bieber
I
would ruin
know,
him.
but I want to see. I want to
I
see them
don't know,
both get
actually.
smashed up.
I think Bieber would
I think
ruin
it'd be a
him.
horrible fight though.
I don't know.
To
I
watch.
think Tom
I don't know.
Cruise-
I suppose Mission
Yeah,
Impossible,
he
like
said
when he trains up and
Bieber's just like.
But that's what I mean. He's got to
It's a
take.
street
He's
fight.
got to take something from those action films he's done.
He's learned
Yeah.
something
He's
from it,
learned
hopefully.
some
Yeah.
things. Surely he must
Yeah.
have.
And if he gets battered, he can't do another Mission Impossible. It just won't be believable. I'll be like, mate, I saw he get beaten up.
Justin Bieber will then take over as
Yeah,
Ethan.
Yeah, he'll be the new Mission
That's
Impossible.
what they
Yeah.
fight for. Isn't it?
Yeah. Who's going to be the next movie?
So Ed, come on, you looked a bit perplexed when
No,
we
I'm
were
just
talking
saying,
about.
like, I think when you said, like, it's like eating an egg, like, which is quite jokes, anyway, but, like, no, just because, like, an egg, like, farm eggs, they're unfertilized.
Yeah.
So it's like, but like an embryo or like abortion, it's a fertilized.
It's a fertilised
So
egg,
it's
yeah.
like, it's different, but.
But
It's
what's
slightly
your
different, but-
view on the stem cell thing then? If
Stem
it was
cells,
used in that way, so somebody's going to get an abortion, and instead of just the termination and it's done and dusted, it's then used to grow.
I don't. Is that how it currently happens, or is that like a suggestion of how like an abortion could be used in a positive?
They probably the person who's getting the abortee, I suppose. I would probably guess that they signed something to say whether their embryo could be used.
So that does
for
happen now as we
medical
speak.
research.
Does
Yeah.
that? Okay.
We're probably guessing that.
Yeah.
But I mean, it
We're
probably makes
guessing,
sense.
but I
That,
think
yeah,
that-
But it
I mean,
makes
if you-
sense
if you sign
for
a
it to
release-
happen that way.
yeah.
But if you sign a release for the placenta, I'm sure it's going to be something similar if you're having an abortion, especially if it's an abortion where it's not just, if you go early enough, I think you just take tablets and you just pass it in the toilet. But if it's gone a while, then I think it's actually a physical procedure.
Right.
If it's gone to that stage, I'm sure there will be some sort
Yeah.
of release form or some sort of permission form that they would sign to say whether or not they consent for the fetus to be used for X, Y, and Z.
Ed.
Some sort
It's
of
like with
medical
dead bodies,
research.
isn't it? Like you
Yeah.
have to, you could say, oh, you could use my organs after I die and
Yeah.
all that sort of stuff. Which I always found sort of like, why wouldn't you want to do that?
I grew up as a Christian, and I always thought to myself, and it's probably due to Christianity, I always thought, no, I want to be buried with all my organs. But now that I'm getting older, and I've converted now to Buddhism, so now that I'm getting older, I'm thinking, well, it's just going to go in the ground and rot. So if it
Yeah.
could potentially help someone else, why not?
I
Yeah.
feel like livers.
Livers probably.
You've already ruined your liver.
Yeah, I
anyway.
reckon.
I reckon none of our
No
livers
one
would
wants
be
that.
Yeah, my lungs are knackered.
Lungs and livers.
Your lungs and liver, yeah. Don't worry about that.
Heart's questionable. I'm not sure if they'd want anything.
Maybe a nose. You've got quite a nice nose.
Mate. I'll give my nose.
Edward, stop fact checking everything. What are you doing?
Don't worry about it.
You said about 3 words.
We've never said we're this is a factual podcast.
Man, you said about 3 words.
I'm looking for facts instead of using alternative facts. I'll drop in some.
Yeah, but I don't feel like any of us have said this
one's
is
used
verbatim.
alternative
And we never say that, by the way.
I just want to know because it's like you can't really.
So what have you just checked there then?
I was looking if abortions are using stem cells.
And you come up with.
It was an Arsenal news.
Shockingly enough, Crystal Palace has said no to 12 million for Zaha.
It wasn't.
Further medical again. It's like you're testing it past our strict regimes. Get a rat instead.
It was 40 million.
All right, that's right.
40 million and £1.
And £1.
Yes.
And a bag of
Back to the
peanuts.
old school.
Yeah.
No, go
Great
on, so
business.
come on. What did you come up with?
Yeah.
You can interrupt me before I got to it. But anyway,
It took you that long?
the point I was making was that I don't want to just like before you form an opinion. It's good to know the facts.
It's true. No, you're completely correct.
Yeah.
Which is what I'm trying to do.
You're completely correct.
Okay.
Before you like trying to kick me.
No, I'm not trying to. I want you to interact a little bit.
I'm pretty sure I have heard it
feels
somewhere
like a
before.
three-man
Though.
podcast.
Yeah, and I thought this was the Ed and Friends podcast.
Yeah, and
Ed and Associates.
Ed's not saying anything.
I'll quickly fact check.
All right.
All right, nice one, Shane.
Right, yeah, but anyway, Shane's fact checking.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you want to ask me?
Well, no, but we could.
No, okay, so I've got a question then. So we talked about animal testing, like that was actually the topic.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think Mike made a good point about the fact that you're testing on animals, but what about humans, sort of thing. And this might be a bit controversial. And I don't mean it to offend anyone, but I always thought with
sorry, I've just
go
got
on,
the facts in.
Leave that on the
Matt
cliffhanger
was
then.
about to offend someone.
I was about to drop some bombshell.
It does look like, because it says here, I've not gone into it considerably, but from this news article I can tell that it probably is the case. It says what British women say matters to them about donating an aborted fetus for stem cell research. So I assume it is happening. Yeah.
Okay.
That
makes sense to me.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, because what's wrong with that?
Yeah,
Go on, Ed.
I guess it just doesn't sound like a nice. It doesn't sound nice.
It doesn't sound nice, but I think
But it's a not nice thing anyway.
I mean, but to be quite honest though, they're just going to throw that. If they say no, they're just going to throw it away. I mean,
like through a basketball hoop and that little bin. Yeah, it's just like what?
paper towel.
Yeah, the doctor's like, yay, rim, mate. Yeah, exactly. Slowly goes through.
Wasn't that in something? Simpsons. I think it might be Simpsons. Yeah.
And I suppose if you take into account the amount of lives you could potentially save with that.
Exactly, and I think that goes all the way back to animal testing, isn't it? The premise is always, well, we're going to save X amount of human lives.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
yeah, I think the premise is worthwhile. It's just, do we know enough about what animals go through? Do we know enough about all of that?
I feel like the ethical side of it is it could only be down to religion. I don't see what else could be ethically wrong with it, because scientifically we know that baby or that fetus. I'll say fetus because it's not actually it's not even a fully formed fetus, but we know that it's not living, breathing, feeling. It's not experiencing emotion. It's not intelligent. So,
but suppose I'm pro-life, but like abortions, I don't like them, but I understand like there's a need for them in certain cases as well.
Yeah.
But like I suppose what you're saying essentially is like you're discounting potential for life. So a fertilized like egg that's gonna grow into something that will have a nervous system that can think and feel and so on and so forth. But until potential is irrelevant, it only matters what stage it is at that point, and that's what you're saying.
Yeah, because until that fetus becomes conscious and sentient, then it's not life. It's just growing cells.
Yeah, no, it's true. I just potential.
But the potential is there.
Does your
but
pro-life thing come from religion?
No, I'm like I was raised religious. Like I suppose like maybe like family, whatever.
It is an extension of Christianity because I grew up to be pro-life.
I said pro-life. What am I talking about? I think
that means you don't agree with abortion.
I'm the opposite. I do think like people should be able to have.
Yeah.
Oh, you're pro-choice.
Yeah, I'm pro-choice.
Okay, right.
I was confused. I was about to say.
That's quite weird
because that goes against you as a person. That I think. And I'm just saying. That's why I said it. That's why.
Ed loves abortion.
But this is why I was. But this is why I was baffled, because someone who's on the left generally is pro-choice.
That's why I
don't really say I'm on the left. I say I'm in the centre.
No, but
even liberals are.
I'm pro-choice.
That's why I brought it up, because I didn't think you meant what you meant to say.
No, it's true. No, thanks for like correcting me. But
I didn't want your friend base to come at you with pitchforks and stuff. You know what I mean? I want you to be safe.
They'll do that anyway.
Yeah. So, but you know, I don't know. It's a tough one. It is
Yeah,
a tough one.
no,
But
yeah,
if they're
like-
doing that already, if that's happening already,
No, yeah.
I can't see it. But I don't think it's a bad thing. I can't see it.
Yeah, it's just like, I suppose, like, it's not, for me, it's not just nothing, you know. There is, like, potential does matter, but I do.
But
but
the potential. By the time the abortions happen, the potential's been snuffed out, which is why that potential no longer exists. It only exists if that baby grows and goes to full term. The potential, once the abortions happen, that potential's snuffed out, so it's not there. That potential's no longer there. So to be able to use that for medical research, I think that's far better than incinerating it, which is what I think happens if you don't agree.
It's true. I agree. Like, people, like, say women, potential mothers, whatever, they should have the choice to like blah blah blah. But I suppose it's just recognizing that it's not enough. It's not nothing. It's not. Like,
it shouldn't be an easy decision.
It
shouldn't be an easy decision to have the abortion.
You know what? I think they go through like sort of interviews and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And, so it's not like just going.
And you just say,
exactly.
Today. There you go.
Exactly.
I suppose, like, the reason I made that face that Mike, like, saw earlier was that it's just comparing it to an egg. It's not an egg because it's like it's been fertilized, so the potential is there. Like an egg that
that's a good point.
That is a good point.
That is just like a period that hasn't been fertilized, and it's just.
Yeah.
So then, hold on. Why do vegans have a problem with eating eggs?
I think just, and like, it's more the animal industry as a whole, like the conditions that the chickens are under to produce those eggs, like
especially battery hens.
Yeah, but even
basically.
free range.
What about dairy farms?
Yeah.
Do they not like dairy farms?
I don't know. What's your point, Mike?
No, I'm just saying.
You know all this
I'm
stuff.
just saying that, you know.
Dairy cows are treated pretty well, I think.
Are they?
Oh, is it? Yeah. So then it should be alright.
Oh, okay. All right. So
let's get an omelette after this,
Glastonbury's
guys.
a bonus.
I think the cows are allowed to roam the fields, eat grass.
Yeah, but if they're grass-fed, that has to be specifically stated, doesn't it? Grass-fed.
I suppose, yeah.
Well, as opposed to corn-fed, isn't it? Or is that what it is?
I think, yeah. Oh no, corn-fed chicken,
isn't it? Mill. I think
sorry,
it's
yeah,
mill.
corn-fed
Don't they eat mill? Is it mill that they eat?
No idea.
They basically get one of those things put on like horses, and then they just
Right.
yeah. I'm not sure.
I know what you're talking about. I know what you're
sure, but I
talking
think
about,
they
yeah.
eat mill. Yeah.
There was that controversy, wasn't there, in America, where I don't know if it was here as well, where you get the baby cow or something like that, and you make sure it doesn't move because then the muscle stays more supple.
Yeah.
And I was just like, but that was the best steak I ever had.
Is that veal where they?
No, I didn't eat that, by the way.
I'm sure they don't. They keep it in the dark as well.
But that is what veal is, isn't it?
Yeah,
I think,
it's a baby cow, but I'm sure they keep it in the dark as well. I think it's really horrendous
That's
the way
horrible,
that veal's
Is it
raised.
a male cow, because the male cows are useless,
Yeah.
essentially, for farming.
Yeah, so they slaughter them for meat. Yeah.
Who's getting hungry?
But to be quite honest, I also saw something which feeds into the environmental issue. I also saw something that if you was to just release all the cows in captivity now, the methane that they'll release into the atmosphere would just the planet wouldn't be able to survive.
So there is bonuses.
You can't
See?
just release all the cows into the wild because they'll eat
Every
all the grass and
cloud,
just
as they
release
say.
so
Exactly.
much methane.
We've got to get Jazz's thoughts on that. I told you guys we should keep eating meat. I said that, didn't I?
Yeah, but do you know how many cows there are on this planet? You couldn't release them into the wild. You couldn't just go, right, okay, we're going to release all the cows. There's far too many cows.
Maybe we should take a specific country or a specific portion of like somewhere huge like America. I mean, you know, they could do with losing a little bit of land, couldn't they? Quarantine it off and get a shitload of cows and release
That's a cow country.
Get all the vegans, put them in there as well, or a portion of, and then they could see what it would be like if all cows were released.
Yeah.
And then maybe they wouldn't think it was such a good idea to release every cow ever.
It is. I did read about it. That apparently, we've got far too many cows, and if you release them and they all start eating grass naturally and all of that, because they don't stop eating.
Right.
That's the point. When they're farmed, you stop them from eating at certain intervals. They would just keep grazing. They'll
They're
destroy
like horses.
they'll
Horses do the
destroy.
same, don't they? They just eat
so
and
they'll
eat and eat.
destroy the land from overgrazing, but they'll also release massive amounts of methane into the atmosphere.
One thing I will say, like, I suppose, but the point about releasing the cows, I suppose it's not just let's release all the cows in.
No, because it's
But,
impossible.
But I think the point is that by farming cows, we're producing
Adding to the problem.
Yeah, we're
Yeah.
producing more cows than there would
Yeah.
naturally be, which is creating a problem. But if there wasn't farming, then there'll be less cows because we wouldn't be producing.
No, see, this is the issue, and I kind of agree with the principle, but the issue of that is that we've already got rid of all of the cow's natural predators. Like, for instance, we used to have wolves in England. Those would be the natural predators of the cows. We don't have any of those now. So if you release them all, they're just going to.
So but what now would be a natural? Foxes maybe.
A fox couldn't eat a cow.
True, yeah.
It's too big.
So we are now cows' natural predators.
They wouldn't be. There was no other natural predator for a cow in Britain. You wouldn't be able. Nothing. They would just keep breeding. You wouldn't be able to. You wouldn't be able to control the population of a cow.
It'd be like Planet of the Apes, apart from Planet of the Cows.
Yeah.
When we did have wolves, and I think
We'd
we had
be
lynxes. I think we used to have. Is it lynxes in Scotland? I think we used to have.
Oh right.
When we used to have those sorts of things, then obviously you could release cows, and cows would be hunted by those things, and the population would be kept under control due to the ecological balance. But now that we don't have those things because we've got rid of them all, you can't really release these farm animals into the wild because they've got no predators.
God damn humans! Damn it.
And this is the reason why in terms of deer we're overpopulated now as well. Deer we're overpopulated with. So the deer population in Britain has exploded.
Richmond Park.
It's exploded.
Which is beautiful, man. I was there the other day.
Yeah,
But don't you remember that guy with that dog? Was it Fenton or whatever?
Yeah. Well, he's
That dog tried to do a cold.
Yeah, he's trying to play his part.
to bring the population down.
But yeah, I mean, they would just, like the deer, it would just explode. We've got we've got rid of all the natural predators because the natural predators were a risk to humans, so we've got rid of them all. And now, if we release all of these bovine back into the wild, they've got no predators to hunt them down. So
I don't feel like we should wrap this topic up until Nav has continued to say what he was going to say.
yeah, sorry.
I
Nav,
forgot. The funny thing, I was just about to wrap it up. Okay. Oh yeah, that. Oh god. Okay. All I was gonna say was it was just because Mike's point about testing on animals, and then what about humans? Because obviously you want something that's been tested on a human. I was thinking about prisoners.
That's risky.
No, it was a bit risky, but I'm talking about prisoners that definitely.
I already know Mike's view on this. Anyway.
Go on, Mike. What's your thoughts? Do you know what I was going to say?
I agree, but I would take the ones that are on death row.
Exactly, that's what I was thinking.
Because I know you don't like capital punishment, Ed, but as a sidestep of capital punishment, take the ones that have been deemed.
I think that's even worse than dying.
Well, hey,
we're just testing this stuff.
Torture.
I suppose it comes down to torture. Yeah, that was a bit. It's not that I'm saying I'm in agreement with it. I just thought maybe. Anyway, let's move on to the next topic. Let's leave it on that bombshell.
Before we move,
Go on.
What happened to the guy you grassed on? Or what happened?
Oh yeah. So what happened?
Oh yes, it's just long, man. No, it's not that. So basically, I've got to fill in a form for the council. I've done that, and it's just.
What council?
Oh no, don't say.
So did the RSPCA come?
No, so what they do is they work with your council, and then the council will say, okay, then you fill up a diary and stuff like this. And,
so potentially, by the time anything's done,
the dogs are dead.
Well, this is what worries me. I feel like I'm going to break down the garage door and just run off.
So what is it?
And let the dogs run out.
Dogs?
No, well, it sounds like he's got like 5 in there.
He might be
probably breeds them. And they notoriously treat dogs really badly.
Exactly. Yeah. So I was just like, well, I got to do my part.
Yeah. Well, fair enough.
Cheers. All right.
But unfortunately, by the time anything's done,
well,
might be dead.
And this is it. And my council is so bad. It just takes forever to do anything.
That now?
All right, let's move on to the next topic. So the Women's World Cup. All right, so we had a mini chat on our WhatsApp group.
We did,
and it's something I feel like we should extend, to our millions and millions of listeners. So Edward feels women are shit at football. And my question is, why is it such a sexist knobhead?
Whoa.
Okay, I'm only joking. I was just messing around, but I knew that was the reaction that we were going to get, because in our society now, it feels like if you make a statement that, women's football is rubbish, and it kind of is, don't you feel like you get vilified?
Yeah.
I mean, why? And I thought about this in terms of myself. I was like, am I not giving them a chance?
No, but see, I kind of feel like if the reason for it being rubbish has nothing to do with sex,
exactly,
then it's fine.
But you have to say it.
You have to say it. I think women's football is hella boring. I just think it's really boring.
Fine because some people somewhere don't deem it to be fine, because you will naturally be branded sexist.
Exactly.
And that's what I said to Ed when Edward said it. Is it sexist to say that women's football is shit? And I said, it isn't.
I don't think it
isn't,
is.
but you will be labelled sexist.
Exactly.
Yeah. But it's like, because
I think men's baseball is crap.
That's what I said. It's like the Scottish League. Yeah, the Scottish League is shit. It's shit
bollocks,
football.
It's
not because we're anti-Scottish. It's because it's shit football.
Yeah. No, and I was thinking about the UFC, because I like watching UFC, and the women's division is, you could argue, they're better fighters than the men.
UFC
exactly.
is
so
great,
it's nothing about sexism, but when you mention women's football, and the BBC's coverage has been insane. It's like, look, I'm trying to get to, proper football.
It has.
It should just be on another little tab.
It's
just non-stop.
I always bring the analogy back to tennis. I always bring the analogy back to tennis. Women's tennis is great. It's amazing. Brilliant. Women's tennis is good. Women's football is not. I'm sorry. I don't know whether it's investment. I don't know whether it's the fact that it's only now up and coming as a viable profession for women now. I think it's in its early days, and at the moment, the standard of football is poor. I'm sorry to say it.
I think it is investment, and I'll say why. Because I watched the England-USA game, and you could see that the American women, who are, by the way,
the best in the world,
a million times more successful than the male USA football team.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they are.
The
Massively.
American team never won the World Cup.
The female
women's team is the
times.
best team in the world. They're the best team in the world.
They're number one.
Makes sense.
They're ranked number one in the world. But you could tell the standard between the England Lionesses, meow, and the female American football team. You could tell
you could see the
standard, and you could tell the difference. And I know that that Alex Morgan is moaning at the moment about the rates of pay, and but in my personal opinion is that the female American soccer team should be paying more than the men, because they've won more than the men.
See, I made this point on the WhatsApp group. I like the
celebration, by the way.
I liked the celebration.
Maybe I just like her.
Well, yeah.
But I made this point on the WhatsApp group, and I mean, pay is a reflection on how much profit that industry brings in.
Absolutely.
And if women's football isn't bringing in the profit that men's football is, then I'm sorry to say you just don't get paid.
That's true,
as much.
but I think
it's got nothing to do with sex.
I think it is more. I think the
industry.
female soccer team in the USA is more profitable than the male.
I don't know about.
Well,
that,
but I think because of how.
I don't know about.
No, but
that.
I think their appeal. And the trophies they've won and stuff like that. I think there are. It is
they are better.
But the prize money for women's football isn't.
No, I know
as
that,
much.
and I know that the advertising rights. And
It's
all
not
that
going to be
sort
as
of stuff.
much. So that's what I mean.
They get big crowns for MLS games. I don't know if they get similar for the women's league as well.
But this is what I'm saying. So the money is different. So men's soccer, if you like, in America, even though they're not as successful as the women's team, the profit that it generates is still far greater than what the women's team would generate, even though they're far more successful. Just because sponsors are likely to pay more money to the teams that have the men in it, because it's a more profitable game. And they will see a greater return on their investment than they would if they were sponsoring a women's team. So it's got nothing to do with the success of it. It's got to do with how much profit that industry generates. And until the women's football can generate as much as the male game, you're not going to see them paid as much. And I think that has to, in a capitalist world, whether you agree with it or not, you can't then just say, we're going to top them up so they're the same.
No, I agree.
Away from capitalism.
I think it always comes back down to quality as well. Like, the expression, the cream rises to the top. So if the argument was that women's football was as good as men's football, then there's a point there.
Yeah.
The point is the quality just isn't there, so you don't draw the audiences. I mean, the stadium was empty. I was briefly watching the England-Sweden game yesterday. There's hardly anyone in the stands. So like. It's because maybe the promotion, but ideally people don't want to go there because you don't want to watch something that's boring.
Yeah.
And it has been forced a lot this year, I think.
The BBC have gone
nuts. Said this to Charlie. I said, have you ever before this heard of the Women's World Cup? And she said no, she wouldn't know when it was on. I said, but you know about this one? And, you get in the car when I'm coming home from work and you put Talk Sport on and they're playing a women's... Now, that's never happened before. I've never listened to Talk Sport and heard women's football.
But that may be because it's getting more popular, which is all good.
I think it should be natural progression. So if it's going to take off, it will take off. I think naturally it will just take off.
It shouldn't be pushed.
It should not be.
It shouldn't be pushed.
And I think it is being pushed a hell of a lot now. A hell of a lot. And, that going back to Alex Morgan, bless her, that tea drinking thing, I think...
I loved it.
Yeah, I thought it was
cool. Yeah, I liked it. I rated
even the New York Times headline the following day, and it was like something about tea, or tea has not been dissed this much since it was dumped in the river, or whatever. In
the Boston Tea Party.
But I'm all for it. And she had an interview the other day saying she can't understand why this is getting so much negative press.
But she wasn't even doing it in terms of the Boston Tea Party.
No, but she was just because the English, they drink tea with the pinky up and all that sort of stuff.
It had something to do with Sophie Turner doing.
I heard
it.
about that.
Yeah.
But this
so
is what I
what?
mean. It just
Yeah.
like Britain and America or England. Like I think for me that's like the biggest untapped like sporting rivalry, like national.
It is.
sport.
Yeah,
I love national sport. I love like England, Germany. I love like that vibe that happens.
England,
because
Germany,
it's
England,
because-
Scotland, England, Argentina.
Yeah, basically England,
England everywhere.
Australia, yeah, the Ashes,
England,
everything.
Australia,
I love that. I love it. But like America,
Because there's no
nothing
common
there.
sport, that's why I
Football,
think
like the Lionesses
they got basketball
versus-
and
that was probably
Well,
the biggest.
she's probably, and this is
Yeah.
a great thing. Now that you've said that, Alex Morgan has probably created a rivalry with the English team now.
Yeah.
So in women's football, you never know. The States and the England might have just sparked off a rivalry.
could be
between
like-
I'm kind of
the-
supporting her.
between the two
I want
nations.
whatever team she's on. I'll support.
But that's what I'm saying. If she wants
she's
to
married,
be,
just saying,
if
yeah.
if she wants to be the poster girl for women's football, I'm all for it. 100% all for it.
But that means like so you're gonna be following women's football for the same reason that women follow football, like with David Beckham or something, or Ronaldo, I guess.
Possibly.
Yeah, what's wrong with that? Yeah,
I'm not judging.
What's
I'm
good
just
for the
making a
goose is
point.
good for the gander.
I'm just making that point.
And you know,
Yeah,
someone
yeah.
else made a very good point the other day. I can't remember who it was. It may have been some knob like Piers Morgan, but not that I, Arsenal's #1 fan. Not that I agree with him
I'm
a lot.
Arsenal's #1 fan, I say. and me and Wrighty.
Not that I agree with him a lot, but there was the commentary panel for the England USA game, or it might have been a game before that. Actually, was all women, and every single one of them. There were 6 of them, I think, and they was all women. Now, every other week on Sky Sports now.
Yeah, we have that girl. What's her
ex-Arsenal,
name?
the ex-Arsenal footballer.
Alex something. Alex. I like her. as well.
Yeah. I can't remember her name.
In all my head, I just got Alex Morgan. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, but she's
That's
good.
natural.
She was a good. She was a good
So
footballer.
anyway, but you've got her on the panels for men's football, which is fine.
Which is
but
good,
then
yeah.
where's the diversity? The other way round.
To be honest, when I've seen like the women's games covered on BBC, I saw DM Dublin on the panel as well. Like,
Maybe it
on
was
the-
just one that I saw then. I don't know,
Yeah.
but I definitely.
The last one I saw, the USA game, it was
That
all
was all
women.
women.
There was
Yeah,
4
yeah,
women.
yeah.
Yeah.
So what did Piers Morgan say though? I
He
don't
made
get
the
it.
same
Yeah.
point. Where's
Oh,
the diversity? It's
okay,
okay.
yeah.
Alex Scott. That's one.
That's it, yeah.
Alex
so it's
Scott,
okay
yeah.
for Alex Scott to be on the panel, and rightly so.
Yeah.
On Super Sunday or whatever. But where's the male footballer or the male ex-footballer for the Women's World Cup? And if you're saying, I don't, probably.
I've seen the ones
Yeah,
I've seen.
probably.
DM Dublin's been there.
Yeah,
as well.
so maybe it was just that one. But you know what Piers Morgan's like. He
You know what
jumps
I'd
over
love?
loads of-
Yeah. I was thinking, imagine Roy Keane on.
Oh, God, yeah.
I think that'd be fantastic.
Yeah,
though.
keep Roy Keane away from women's
Yeah, keep Roy Keane.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, just a little tip there.
It reminds me of, was it just before the World Cup or something? The Republic of Ireland got to, it might have been the Euros or a World Cup or whatever, because they don't get to many, do they? Bless them. And they was interviewing Roy Keane, and it was about Robbie Keane. So it was a while ago, and his wife had just had a baby. So is Robbie Keane going to be coming for international duty, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And Roy Keane was like, why not? His wife's had the baby. He's not breastfeeding. Why is he not going to be there? And they all just
typical
started
Roy
laughing.
Keane.
But he'd that straight
serious.
face, and they all started laughing. He was
I
like,
love Roy Keane.
He's dead serious.
Moving on then, moving topics.
He doesn't care, Roy Keane. He
Yeah, he's
doesn't.
brilliant.
Like that
He's-
awkward laughter, like,
Because no one wants to pee him off.
Yeah, he's a scary
there's
man.
loads of them. In his press conferences when he was Ipswich manager, a mobile phone goes off, and he was like, "Whose phone's that?"
Yeah, and he
That's the second time it's gone off.
he goes bananas about it.
What sort of manners have you got? You're just
Yeah.
going to let it ring, are you? Yeah, well, I was going to let it ring.
I love
and then
it.
Well, switch it off now.
He is hilarious. I love seeing him with Gary Neville because obviously he was Gary Neville's captain.
Right, yeah,
So when
yeah.
they're both like
There's
talking,
still that
Gary's
respect.
still scared.
Yeah,
He's
that
still
dynamic's still
he's
there.
still got
Yeah,
the
yeah.
scared. Like, so
Yeah.
when Roy Keane says it, it's like, he's almost petrified to say anything because he remembers him from.
Yeah, but
obviously being his captain.
reckon that Ferguson never used to go into the change room at half time.
No,
it was
Keane.
Schmeichel
It was
and Keane
Keane.
that used to
Yeah.
go in and
That's
do what they were
brilliant.
doing.
Yeah.
That's brilliant.
And I heard that Keane, he parked Schmeichel in the face, and I'm pretty sure he punched him in the face.
They had loads of
During the
punch-ups.
Barney.
They had
Yeah,
loads
yeah.
of punch-ups, and there was the big one that they had on a pre-season tour of somewhere.
Yeah.
And they went out the night before and all got
Keane and Schmeichel.
Keane and Schmeichel.
Yeah, they used to fight
and
a
they
lot.
got pissed up,
Yeah.
and apparently they had a 45-minute punch-up around the pool.
Yeah.
And everyone just left them.
45 minutes.
Schmeichel,
just
you
left
wouldn't
him.
think it, but
That's
he was.
longer than a boxing match.
Yeah, everyone just
Schmeichel
left
was-
them to it and went to bed. And then the next
let
morning,
me-
like Keane had a fucking great big black eye, and Schmeichel would hurt his hand.
Because Schmeichel was as hard as nails as well. People forget that. So when the two of
Yeah,
them,
yeah,
used to,
Schmeichel's tough. Yeah,
And
yeah.
Schmeichel's
Schmeichel.
a big guy. Like
He's a
Keane-
big
Yeah,
guy.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
He's not that tall, is he?
No, he's
No,
not.
but he's like a
but he's a
terrier.
Rottweiler, yeah, he will
He
mess
was
you
a
up.
bare knuckle boxer in Ireland, wasn't he?
Oh god.
When he was younger,
It
yeah.
doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, he was.
When he's got like
bare
9
knuckle
or something
fighter.
like that.
Yeah, probably. Because my dad's read his book.
Okay.
And
Cool.
he was.
Yeah, I've got that at home. I've not read it yet.
He was also a Spurs fan. Another one.
Typical.
One that got away.
Yeah, Bergkamp and all that, you know.
So Ed, have you changed your view on women then? Do you believe they're equal to men?
I stitched him right up the other day, though.
First,
There was
what did you say? Like, of us, I'm the one who's like, mate, it's not shit. I've watched a few games, like, so just getting the point.
No, I'm obviously being silly. I must admit, I haven't even watched any of the games.
I watched.
just little bits here and there.
No, I
It's
did.
just
I
so
did
bad.
watch a couple of games, and for me, it's so slow. So
Yeah.
I think that's the point for me. It doesn't instill that excitement in me, because I look at it and it's just. I'm so used to watching men's football. When I see the moves happening, the transitions happening, I'm like, wow, you're slow.
Yeah, it's not.
like you're
it's not
incredibly
slick,
slow.
and it's not like you wouldn't call it free flowing, and that's why you can
Yeah.
see the golfing class between the women, the English women and the Americans, because the pass and moving of their ball was a lot, you know, probably like championship level football. I'd say.
Yeah,
Do you know what the funny thing
American
is, though?
women are
But the
far better.
English is
they're
probably
easier to
talking
watch.
like League
Yeah.
2 standard.
Nah, but I tell you what, Mike. I think the women's team would beat Arsenal. Don't you think, Ed? No, look, the game, the tournament. So wait, is the final happened yet? Is it
No.
today? Is it?
It's
like-
today.
Yeah,
Is
it's
it
today.
today? Yeah. So is it America versus Sweden?
Netherlands.
No, Netherlands.
So
Yeah.
whenever this goes out, we're recording this on Sunday. Just saying.
So I think we're all supporting America, isn't it? And I think
Yeah,
we'll know
why
why.
not?
Yeah, come on,
Why not?
America.
And, but you know,
No, you're supporting Netherlands.
I'm still stuck on your previous. No, is it? No, it's Netherlands.
It's
isn't it?
Holland.
the Netherlands, yeah,
because
yeah,
they've
yeah.
got their all-time. I mean, it just goes to show their standard is getting better now. But the Dutch all-time leading goal scorer is 22 years of age, and she plays for them now.
Yeah.
The thing,
Oh, that's
yeah,
good.
So,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
she's,
yeah. So she'll be
she's
able
scored
to-
a
yeah.
shitload of goals apparently.
Really?
A shitload of goals. But you can see
Arsenal should
how
sign
the
her.
standard is
We've got a couple Dutch players actually. I wouldn't-
raising.
Oh, is that?
But
Yeah, I think Man United just signed one of the Dutch women for their team.
Yeah, but I suppose like.
they're talking about the English. The FA are going to relinquish control of the female game,
Yeah,
aren't they?
to
And
the
the Premier
Premier
League,
League,
they
yeah.
reckon the Premier League are going to take it over.
Yeah, yeah.
And,
Oh,
and
really?
that will send it right through the roof.
That shit. Well, it put a lot more money in it.
Because I know
Yeah,
it
put a
wasn't
lot more
last
money
season
in
there
it.
was issues. I think there was a West Ham game, like a West Ham Premier League game at the same time as West Ham women's team were in the FA Cup final, or like not, or like it's like West Ham game was at 3 and the FA Cup final was at 5.
Yeah.
I think they wanted to they were asking the Premier League to bring the West Ham game earlier so that the West Ham fans could go over to Wembley, but they were like no, and I suppose one of the reasons why people say is because it's rival products. I guess the Premier League isn't gonna.
Well, and they wouldn't want to go to that game.
No,
I mean, like, you know what I mean?
They actually
The
did,
fans-
yeah, because their
Oh,
team
really?
was in the final. So
It's not the
like-
men's tennis final today, is it?
No, it's still it's
That's
still
next
midway
week.
through. Yeah, yeah.
Because I saw an article. Sorry, but I saw an article. You know that Rapone, is that her name? She's got the really short cut hair. She's American as well.
yeah. The
And
one
she's
who's, like,
a bit of a
against Trump,
showboat
yeah.
and a bit of a but I
Yeah,
mean
yeah.
she's what you'd probably say like your Ibrahimovic of the female football game. You know, a bit
She's got the goatee. And
well, yeah.
Arrogant.
Yeah, she's, got arrogance, she's got
yeah.
that arrogance about her and all that. So I think she's the captain. No, Alex Morgan's their captain.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so anyway, but she had made this thing about the final being the same. The Women's World Cup Championship final is what she called it, being the same day as the Wimbledon men's final. But it can't
Right.
be.
No,
Is that-
no, that,
Oh, you
Because-
can't
Yeah,
be,
but
yeah.
the numbers
Got it
the
wrong.
numbers are completely different. So tennis doesn't pull in. The
I know,
numbers
but let's
that football
focus on the
does.
fact she called it the World Cup Championship.
Yeah.
A
That's
little bit
annoying.
sad. And it's like, oh, do you remember Bob? What's his name? Who used to be Swansea manager briefly, the American guy. What was his name? Bob.
yeah.
Oh yeah,
I remember. I know who you're talking about. I can't remember.
Hadley? No, no.
Bob Bradley.
Bob Bradley. yeah.
Bradley.
And he used
There
to
is-
call a penalty a PK.
That's annoying.
why they
That
lost.
isn't it?
That makes me sad.
Yeah, that's.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but in tennis, women and men are paid the same, aren't they?
I think it's
sure
world
they are.
rankings.
No, but I mean, like, if you win Wimbledon, the prize money's the same as if
No,
you're
it
a
isn't.
woman
I
or
don't-
a
I'm not
man. I'm
if
sure
it's
it
Wimbledon,
is.
think it
but I
is.
think for most tournaments,
I'm
for most
sure it
tournaments
is.
it is.
Wimbledon it isn't.
I think for I'm not
Because
sure.
wasn't there a thing a couple of years ago about this?
I'm not,
okay.
I don't know. Yeah, mate. Like
They
you
definitely
might
get a
be
smaller
right.
trophy. I know that.
And they play less sets though, isn't it? I mean, it's not the same
Yeah,
best of
that's
five.
an
but-
interesting argument. Like, yes.
Yeah, why is it?
I think
yeah.
that's down to physical differences.
But
I
that's
don't
it.
know.
See, I'm glad you said that, right? Because me and Charlie had this debate the other night in the England USA game. Because I said,
No, there is still a golf in tennis as well.
did you know that the Women's Football Association are putting forward a proposal to make the goals smaller, which is true. That's an actual truth. And I never, not once did I say, I think they should. And she started blowing up about, but, equality and they want, I said, whoa, hang on a minute. I never said that it should be either, but I said physical differences, natural physical differences. When's the last time you saw a 6'4" women's goalkeeper? I said, how many 6'+ women do you know? And she was like, I don't know. But how many?
That's actually a really good point.
Maybe the pitch should be smaller. It's the same argument with tennis. They play a set less. So, it's because it's to account for the physical differences.
Any 6'+ like women are probably models, I guess. Like,
I suppose
the quality, like, if you've got to go into football.
But I think it was everything. It was like, like muscle mass and stuff like that. So how hard you can hit a football and all that sort of stuff. But I think it's pretty much a 50-50 split within the women's football community, that half of them are open to it and half of them are like, nah, we don't want it.
I suppose it kind of flies in the face of like the equality movement. That, like, women are able to do everything that men could do, and they say sometimes better as well. Which is true for a lot of things.
Yeah,
but then to then go. And
I mean, their standards are washing up, mate. Trump mine.
No, but I mean,
that's a joke.
I think that's a good
joke.
Fucking hell, Michael. Of Wimbledon.
As if you're throwing out a full name as well.
Yeah, no, you didn't need to do that. That's a bit harsh. Yeah, that's harsh. Yeah, bleep that one.
It's a joke. It's a joke. I wash up much better than Charlie. So that's 100% true.
All right, cool.
No, but it just flies in the face of that. In a
no,
way.
I get it, and I'm really not for or against it. I don't really. If that's the way they want to go, then fine. Let them do. If they don't, then they don't.
Discussion,
And in tennis, I think like women and men should play the same. I'm a big tennis fan. I think they should play the same sense as well.
But I didn't even know there was a controversy in tennis that they play less.
I don't think there is.
With
have you heard of it?
With
the pay, because I said
the pay makes sense.
Wimbledon. I think that was a couple of years ago that was brought, maybe 2 years ago.
It was brought up in relation to pay because like men play best of five. Best of five. So first
and women play best of three.
So like if you're paying, if you're giving people the same pay, then technically
you should play the same.
I
suppose.
So, getting the same pay, technically, women are getting paid more per.
But I don't think people are making
per set.
No one's making a fuss of it.
It's kind of happened, and it's kind of just gone. So there was a fuss like a few years ago when it was like heat up, and I think even some like legendary women players said that men should play less as well. So because Grand Slams in tennis is like. It's best out of 5 because that's the pinnacle. You like to win a Grand Slam.
But it's best out of 3 for the the competition.
So a woman's Grand Slam would be best of 3.
It's the same.
And a male Grand Slam would be best of 5.
Yeah, women's tennis throughout every tournament, Grand Slam or not, it's the
same.
It's always the same.
But men, it goes down to 3 when you're playing the
regular ATP tour stuff. But for men, but like,
do you know, I don't really know that much about tennis.
No,
I'll sit and watch Wimbledon when it's on.
Here's
I'm
an
disgruntled
example
with
of
Wimbledon anyway because I live in the area and everything goes through the roof.
It
All
does.
prices go through the roof.
It's horrible, and you
Can
can't
you hear
get
it?
cab.
No,
You can't hear it, but you can't get cab. The traffic's horrendous.
You're quite close to it.
I can walk to Wimbledon town centre in under 10 minutes.
Could you like let your place out for like?
We've had offers before.
Really?
We had offers before.
Yeah.
Okay, you didn't.
I've never done it. No, I've never done it.
Gone on holiday or something like that.
No, I've never done it.
No, we had a couple of offers on our place in Collierswood
because we can't really go because it's school time. So going on holidays is.
But here's the goal.
I mean, if we could, then yeah, fine.
Just as
but
an
one
example,
talking about
so
prices, I mean, like pub drink. If I went into, let's say I went into Wetherspoons in Wimbledon 3 weeks ago, I'd get a pint, for instance, for £2. Yeah. Well, I'm just saying, for instance, now if I go in there today, it's probably going to cost me £2.80 or £3.
Yeah, they do.
It's just what they do.
But here's a little example. So Serena Williams, who's probably the most successful female tennis player of all time, her career earnings so far is $88.6 million.
Only.
Wow.
And Novak Djokovic, he's the highest paid male tennis player. He's basically past Roger Federer in his career winnings now, and he's at 131.
But I think with Serena though, she's the most successful in Grand Slams, but she's had a lot of injuries. I don't think like Federer's hardly been off. Like I think in most recent years he's been off. Like Nadal and Federer, Nadal and Djokovic.
Nadal's had quite a lot of time off.
I don't think they've had the same amount of injuries as.
No, but this is still saying this is.
Is that winnings or like
this is career,
sponsors?
No, this is career winnings.
Oh, so like your trophies.
So over Serena Williams, who's the most successful, highest paid female tennis player, over her career, she's brought in 88.6, and Djokovic is.
It's not to be sniffed at, though, is it?
Is
Let's be honest. It's like 88 million.
A lot of that would be because like disparity in pay as well, as well as.
Yeah, I think it is. I mean, I think it's getting better, but a lot of it would have been in the earlier days when they were playing as well. Would have been
if
down
someone
to
said
the
to
gender
me,
gap in
like,
pay.
you know, here's 88 million, I'd be like, cheers, mate.
But
yeah,
I
thanks.
think also, like,
moan about it and say, well, hang on a minute, well, Djokovic has got this.
But what you were saying earlier about in terms of comparing the women's football to men's football in terms of like the success of the overall sport, I think that's similar to the women and men in tennis, because I think men's tennis still gets more viewers than women's tennis as well, so that will probably relate to sponsorship.
But
and
the disparity between the two is a lot
Does it
lower
get
than
more
men's
viewers?
football.
Is that actually a fact?
I'll check.
No, I don't want you to check. What I'm saying is does it actually get more viewers, men and women's tennis? I don't know.
But irrespective of how many,
from last time I
think
checked, it does.
the disparity between the men and women's game is far smaller in tennis.
No, it's true. But then that's why the disparity in wages is far smaller as well.
Yeah,
So.
yeah. Exactly.
I think for women's football as a whole, if the Premier League take over the women's football, I think that would do the whole sport the world of good. The whole sport. I mean, for the whole
It would
for the whole
certainly bring up
world.
the standard.
I think for
Yeah.
the whole
Bring up
world
the
that would
standard.
really, if the Premier League were to take over the Lionesses, you know, the female sport.
Yeah, because you'll get La Liga will probably follow.
That's what I mean.
Yeah,
because the
yeah,
Premier
yeah.
League will sort of almost set a precedent then, and it will be because every single Premier League team has got a ladies' team. And they've just now, is it this season or was it last season where they've just started the women's, much like the under-21s league. Now the women have got one and they've got their European league as well.
See, again, I think that's the sort of thing that will push the levels
Yeah.
up. Because
Yeah,
now you're
it's
putting
got
in
to be-
grassroots structures.
Exactly.
Because it was what? It
And
was
that's what we're
Chelsea
saying.
women and was it PSG or Lyon women last season at Kingstonian?
Chelsea won, didn't it?
But at
They won.
Kingstonian when they had because you played at PSG first,
Okay.
or Lyon, it was one of the two. And when the French came over, loads
You
of
put
them.
them in Kingstonians.
Yeah,
bro.
that's where the women play. The Chelsea women's, that's where they play Kingstonian. Well, so when the away fans came over, loads of them got turned away because they had knuckle dusters and knives. That's true. That's a true story.
It just gets too intense,
Well,
isn't
men
it?
or women?
Well, I don't know, but it was for women's football. It was for the return leg of the women's football, and
that
they
just
got
that just
turned
says
away.
to me that the men's
But you know, apparently
hooligans
the
have come in
the
and
coach
yeah.
turned up at like 11 o'clock in the morning, so they were rolling around Kingston for the day, getting pissed up and whatever. And when they've turned up at the gate to get in, they've got like knuckle dusters and
Oh,
yeah, man,
Jesus.
honestly, it's
God.
true. It's just like
Chelsea,
welcome to the
brilliant.
real world, women's
Yeah,
football.
exactly. Yeah.
But Kingstonian is such a crap ground.
Yeah, I know. No, but they've now got. Oh no, that's right. Yeah, so but Chelsea are going to redevelop it because what happened was AFC Wimbledon played there at Kingstonian, and now
They play at the Cherry Records Stadium.
and now
don't they?
Chelsea have bought Kingstonian, and the money that they bought that was used to build Plough Lane again, which is
Yeah,
what's
yeah,
been
yeah.
done.
They bought Kingstonian off of AFC, didn't they? Yeah, Chelsea
Yeah,
bought
so
it
it's
off of
going to
them.
be the reserve team and the ladies' team's football.
That I'm just going to say that when the Cherry Record, because they're going to have to sell the Cherry Record Stadium at some point, and they move into Plough Lane, I'm definitely getting my season ticket.
Sweet.
Nice.
Just down the road. Isn't it? Well,
Yeah, yeah.
I am.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, yeah.
So you,
Look,
are you
used
getting
to.
one as well?
Maybe. I plan to be moved by them.
You've got a Tottenham season ticket now, but
All right, mate.
I'll be getting my AOC one. Yeah.
Proper stadium.
Right, cool. I guess should we wrap this up then? Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, nice one.
Cool.
So I'm glad we've dispelled the rumours that Edward hates women's football, and I
Yeah.
think we've brought him around a little bit.
He's not sexist,
yeah,
everyone.
he's not sexist anymore. I mean, you know,
Yeah.
Anymore, we've
He's learned
changed
a
his
lesson
mind.
today.
We've changed his
He's
mind.
all right.
Yeah.
Thank you guys. You have really enlightened me. I don't know what I would have done if I didn't have this conversation with you.
I did drop him in it the other day though. I went round to his mum. He was at his mum's house,
Yeah.
and it was at the England.
Yeah, I think it was the Norway game that was on.
Yeah, whichever one it was. And as I was leaving, I was like, yeah, you know, because Edward thinks that women's football's shit. And it was like his mum and his sister were there, like, oh really? And I was like, yeah, see you later.
Did you have to explain that to your mum and your sister?
Well, first, I had to apologise to Michael for swearing. I mean, we don't do that in my household, not in my family. But
Don't ever apologise.
Also, they know it's Michael, and they know Michael's full of shit sometimes. But anyway, yeah, let's go. Yeah, let's wrap this.
Nice one.
Cool. Nice one. Tight Men available on Spotify, Stitcher, TuneIn, SoundCloud, YouTube.
YouTube, yeah.
Yeah, watch out for some new videos on YouTube coming soon.
Yeah, search for us on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook as well. Cool. Later.
Thank you.
Sweet.
Anything to say, Mike?
That was nice. No.
Cool. Done.